Hello and welcome to Alchemy 101, the show that explores all avenues of transformation and aims to offer some useful nuggets that can support us in living in line with nature in a way that's true to our nature, no matter how contrary that might seem, just like this nightingale, the bird that sings out in the dark. I'm JJ, the Practical Alchemist, and I'm delighted you could join me today. My guest is a man who's overcome more hurdles in his life than most of us ever will or want to. His name is Doug Dane, and today he's an international keynote speaker, a mindset mentor, who has turned his personal experience into a system to help people discover their true identity and live a life free of guilt or shame. He's outlined the system in his book Mistaken Identity, a guide to letting go of a past that's holding you back. And he's on a mission to guide people struggling to overcome their troublesome past to create a brighter future. I asked Doug to tell us his extraordinary story so that we can understand where he's coming from with his book.
Yeah, for sure. I guess the first 23 years of my life cover a lot of ground, a lot of struggle. So started off by being beamed into an alcoholic, violent home. So I was given up for adoption as an infant, spent the first 6 months in foster care, and then was adopted into this home, these violent alcoholics. And it was a real struggle. They were really violent and abusive towards each other. They became emotionally and physically abusive to myself and my brother. He was adopted as well. And that was really the first 13 years of my life, was just trying to survive and figure, how to stay safe during these first few years, because the police visits were the norm. I mean, it was very violent. It was very dark. My dad ultimately quit drinking. He got arrested for assaulting my mom. My mom spent many times in and out of the hospital getting shock treatments. And so she was really, really struggling. And when my dad finally quit drinking, we returned home from foster care, and my mom became this very dark, violent person. So she was really beating on my father. They were both alcoholics. They came from alcoholic families. They were violent. My dad was a philanderer. My mom became mentally ill. And of course, as a young boy, you're trying to, figure life out as I became an adolescent and wasn't getting love or validation or anything that, kids need in the home. And so I started going outwards, running away a lot, running the streets. And then around 13 years old, I was skipping school and hanging out at this Radio Shack electronics store in the city where I was born, and got hooked up with this sexually abusive man. He led a ring of pedophiles, and so for the next couple of years, I ended up in this ring of pedophiles. It was 4 different men, and there was 23 different boys that they found through the police investigation, and endured that. And then that ended in my kidnapping when I was 15 years old. I got returned home. The police were looking for this man, so he escaped town to avoid arrest. And then after that, the investigation and going to court, at 15, turned to drugs and alcohol as a way to cope. Luckily for me, the more stoned I got, the more paranoid I got. Took me obviously many years, maybe about 8 years, to finally get rid of that and end that. And then I got into business. I was born into a poor family. We didn't have a lot of money. And so most of my jobs were, in factories and different things like that. And then one day I got the idea I wanted to be in business, and I quit the factory job, got into business. I went bankrupt. So struggled financially, of course, not having any sense of, understanding of money and earning it. And then I got into business and started to figure it out, and I started to succeed. Started to do well, at least in business and financially. And that gave me some validation and approval that I was okay, and that maybe there was hope for me and success. And then, of course, relationships were really difficult for me. I kept hoping to find solace and safety in relationships, but also hiding them, which is not a good idea. And of course, I wrecked all my relationships. And then when my second marriage had failed, I ended up in marriage counseling that turned into separation counseling. And the therapist there who became a mentor, she spotted something in me. So this story I just told you, that was all blocked out until I was 39.
Right.
I remember bits and pieces. I remember the alcoholic home. I thought that my friend and I next door were just trialing, gay sex one summer. That was my only memory about the abuse. And so as we got into the counseling, and she was very intelligent and started asking questions, and she said, if you want to understand why you feel the way you feel about yourself, you probably should, put your story together. So I did an investigation, literally. I hired a private investigator. I went back and interviewed teachers and family and friends. And the police detective that arrived at my home after my kidnapping, it investigated the abuse charges. I just basically put all this story together. I got records from social workers and my adoption records, and I put it all together, and I went public with it in the newspaper. And the intention of that was really, I knew that if I told my story, I would feel better. And so I just kept saying talking works. I told the truth, and it did. It normalized me. It didn't normalize what happened to me,
No.
but it definitely helped to normalize me,
Yeah.
And so I was 39 at the time when that came out, and then people started asking me to speak. Everybody wanted to know, how did you go from like that? Because there's a high percentage of our population, at least at that time, and still probably today, about 50% of people have gone through some form of abuse or
Yeah.
assault that results in trauma. And so they were coming to me going like, can you help me? How did you go from that, to this? And what's the secret? What's the answer? And I couldn't tell you what I did. I knew what I did, but I couldn't transfer it to you. And so I embarked on a journey, an investigation again, because I like to understand things. And I started studying psychology. I started working on understanding self-image and really digging into why I felt the way I felt about myself still, yet I was still able to, get relatively good results and
Yeah.
transfer from, the story to the new story.
Yeah.
That's kind of the background.
Well, I mean, what a background. It would have felled other people. So many people go through that kind of upbringing, not to diminish in any way how it impacted you,
No.
but so many people who have similar things happen to them, maybe not all of them, but some of them, or one of them, find it very, very difficult to ever get through the pain that's caused. And you're right, people block that off. And so, I think I applaud you for writing the book. And I think you're right. When you're able to tell the story and be honest to yourself and others about what's gone on in your life, that really helps you heal. And there's a section in the book where you talk about the detrimental effect that secrets and lies have on a person. And certainly that's something that you recognized, wasn't it? And so being honest and open, but it's hard. It's painful to bring these things up to the surface. So, what I'm wondering is, how did you do that? Was it through the therapy or the counseling that you had? Or, what is it that you did? I know that you talk about these things in the book, but,
Yeah. No, well, no. Early on, of course, the natural place that people would turn to, that I turned to, of course, and which, is fairly common in our society, is to turn to therapy and counseling.
Yeah.
I refused that I was ever going to take any pills for my anxiety and depression. I just refused to take any sort of medical medicines. But I turned to therapy, and therapy, reflecting back now, I don't recommend therapy to most people. I think it's effective for a period of time, but a lot of problem with therapy is that you just talk about your story and talk about your story and talk about your story. You feel good temporarily, but you land back there 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever. So I just remember, I mentioned in the story, one of the men that helped me was a counselor. His name was John. And he said, I think you're done, Doug. I don't think you have to come here anymore.
Yeah. Well, good
he
for
taught
him.
me a number of lessons, but yeah, good for him. So one would argue that, well, this took you a long time and you did go through therapy, and people would argue that therapy is the answer. And reflecting back, I can tell you it's not the answer. It's a temporary thing that can lead you to an opening. I started to learn, actually really understanding how my mind works and how I can control my thinking, where I was allowing my situation to control my thinking and my feelings. And so I think therapy can be good, but I don't think it's the answer for most people.
No. And so how did you then move on from therapy? You said that you learned about psychology yourself. So basically, am I right in saying that you started to learn some techniques that you taught yourself that you didn't get in the talking therapy as such?
Yeah. So for me, therapy, as I said, was useful. And I was observing what techniques the good ones that I saw were using. And when I got into business early, of course, I was pointed towards, a lot of self-help and personal development and books to become, more successful, more effective. But when the story came out, some books I got pointed to, one book that really literally saved my life was called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Excellent
And
book.
I adopted.
I like that book.
Amazing book. I mentioned in my book, I said, when you're done this book, my book, go get this book.
Yeah.
And so that opened the door to me searching in a different direction for answers. So I don't have any degrees behind my name, but I have a strong degree of experience. And so I started searching out information to explain why we see ourselves the way that we see ourselves and why we feel the way we feel as a result of what I had come through. So primarily it was self-taught, but then what I wanted to do as I was learning this, I wanted to share it. So I learned that one of the fastest ways to make changes in your life is to teach others while you make the changes. And so my counselor at the time, who revealed the story with me or for me, she said, Doug, you have no right to stand in front of somebody and speak about what they should do unless you're walking the talk.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a good challenge. I was always that kind of a guy, and I still am that way. And so I wanted to be a leader, but I had to be a follower too. And so I just embarked researching and reading and talking to thousands of people that had come to me asking me for advice. So it was primarily self-taught and through application and discovery.
Yeah. Interesting. And then let's just talk about the book for a minute as well.
Sure.
Mistaken Identity is the name of the book. Where does that come from? How does that fit into your life story?
Well, like me and many others, regardless of where you come from in your life, when you first arrive here and you get past infancy stage, the parents start to program you with rules, values, beliefs, prejudices. You're also a bit of an imitation, because you're imitating the adults. You eat what they eat. You speak the same language. You shave like dad or whatever, and we start to imitate the adults. So very early on, what starts to happen, because we have an inherent need for connection, love, validation, especially at a very young age, we're pursuing that, but it's very conditional. In that book, Ruiz, he talked about this auto domestication. We get domesticated, and if we follow the rules, then we're good. If we break the rules, we're bad. And generally what happened as the parents were programming us and trying to set up these rules, values, and beliefs, if we followed them, everything was fine. But if we didn't, we got in trouble. We got punished. We got criticized. We got teased. I would get hit. I mean, the rules in my family were very distorted, of course. And so that's the beginning of it, is that you're just, all these things are drilled into you, but they don't fit you. It's like an uncomfortable coat. It's scratchy and itchy. It doesn't fit because they're not you, and they're programming you to be the way that they think you should be according to these rules, values, and beliefs. And so then you move into this phase of conformity. We have to conform. We're judged when we're little. We get judged a lot. We get judged against whether we're performing. We get judged whether we're following the rules, and then we learn to judge ourselves. because we're watching everybody else judge everybody else. Our parents are judging us. They're judging each other. They're judging friends and family. And then we take on the judgment because we're not following the rules. And so we become very judgmental, self-critical. In a lot of cases, I think a lot of people grow up with this mistaken identity. They have an image of themselves. They see themselves a certain way because of that upbringing and that conditioning. And of course, the mistakes that they made and how they were treated because they didn't conform.
Yeah.
That also builds and fuels a huge concern about what people think of us, and we have a fear of being judged or being criticized. And so we just pretend to be somebody we're not, just to fit in or not be judged or criticized or teased or hurt. We do whatever we can just to fit in, and we become somebody that we're not. And then we just see ourselves that way because we act that way. The results from our actions confirm, yeah, we're that person. And so for me, of course, there's a lot of things that I was told by my parents and by other people that I kind of locked into, and I proved it out. Like my mom used to call me, "You're a little devil, Doug," because I was born on what's called Devil's Night, the day before Halloween.
Oh, right,
in Canada, and I acted like a little devil. And I was the bad kid. My brother was the good kid, and so I just started acting that way. And of course, then you get these reactions when you make these mistakes, and the repercussion states come back at you and on you, and then you just end up feeling lousy about yourself. So all these people are coming to me, and at first I thought it was just me. I go, I think people have a real problem with how they see themselves. I go, nah, it's just me. And I kept going through that, but over and over and over, pretty much everybody I talked to, when I got to the truth, if they told me the truth or I uncovered the truth, they just didn't like themselves or feel good about themselves, or they had an inferiority complex. They were comparing themselves to others. They had a failure type personality. And of course, the results proved it was true to them. And so about 8 years ago, I was just writing something down. I go, I think people have this mistaken identity. They're mistaken about how they see themselves. They're mistaken about the facts. They're mistaken about how they perceive their story. I perceive my story as good, not bad. I perceive it as good. I think it's a gift. As I changed my perception and my judgment towards my story and myself, my opinion of myself changed. And so I think people are just mistaken about themselves, and they're walking around not feeling good about themselves. They're not doing as well as they could because they're mistaken about who they are and who they're not. That's the basis of it.
Wow, I can relate to that. I don't know about you. But let's just take a short break here. We'll be back with more from Doug Dane right after this from our station sponsors.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
And you're listening to Alchemy 101 here on UK Health Radio with me, JJ, the practical alchemist, and my guest, Doug Dane, author of the very powerful book, Mistaken Identity. Now, what I really like about this book is that it's not just Doug's story, fascinating and powerful though that is. The book is a handbook for anyone facing the kind of issues that Doug has navigated his way through. And it's a workbook with blank space for the reader to write down their thoughts. There's even a meditation, a quote really, at the end of each chapter.
Yeah, I've read a lot of books. I bought a lot of I call them shelf-help books. You buy a book trying to solve your problem. Yeah. You read a bit of the book or all of the book, then you put it back on the shelf. Nothing changes. You go buy another book. I bought a lot of books and put them back on my shelf, and it didn't do a whole lot. And somebody said to me, somebody I worked closely with, because he had seen and was observing this transformation, how I was doing it. He was close to me. He said, Doug, he said, I don't think there's any book out there that I'm aware of in this space on self-image and how people see themselves and feel about themselves that actually gives them instructions. Mm-hmm. And so in the past 8 years, I've been in the business of mentoring and coaching and teaching people how to transform this opinion of themselves and let go of their story Maybe it's a story like mine, or anybody has a past that's holding back to some degree. So I wanted to make the book work. I said to the publisher, I go, if this book isn't any good, I'm not here to write a book. I don't want to put a book out. I want people to get instructions how to do what I did, because I need to explain to people because they asked me. And I said, if the book's no good, we're not doing it. And so I wrote it, in a way it's very direct. Each chapter is only 2 to 3 pages long. It's very prescriptive. It's very hard hitting. I'm hard hitting because we waste too much of our life in our victim mentality and just trying to get through life. So I want it to make a change instantly for people. And then at the back of the chapter, there's a little, as you mentioned, a piece of scripture. Whether you believe in God or not, or whatever your relationship with God is, I at least want you to consider what God is saying about you. So this piece of scripture goes with the chapter. And there's a bit of my story, and then there's a principle or a concept. And this is based on what I did. Again, walking the talk, not just telling people what to do. And then, you jot down any key insights, but then there's an action step, because the key to changing how you see yourself, it's through action. You build up a new self-image through action. You take action, acting a different way, and you get a reaction. You go, oh, maybe I am this person. Maybe I am good. Maybe I am okay. And so each chapter basically literally is designed to go through it over 30 days. You don't have to do it over 30 days, but there's 30 chapters, and each chapter gets you to take a simple action step each day to start moving and changing. So basically the book is designed 3 ways. One is understand your mistake and identity. And then I start to change your mind about why you feel the way and see yourself the way you do. And then I try to get you to start making moves, making changes once I've changed your mind. Because if you don't change your mind, nothing's going to change in your life. And so that's the way I designed it. And it's very effective. We've got a lot of people going through the book and providing feedback. I'm doing this little observational trial with people, and the feedback is tremendous. One lady said the other day, she said, she's 37 years old. She goes, I've been reading the book for the month of February. I got this message on February 27th. She goes, this has been the best month of my entire life. I feel lighter. I feel freer. I don't care what people think anymore. Like, it really I wanted to cause a change.
Yeah.
Because that's where transformation takes place, is changing your mind. And you do that through action.
I completely agree, and embodying that change so that you get it in the muscle almost, so that you're not just thinking about it, which is where it just kind of dissipates, and then you're back on that hamster wheel again. Yeah. Yes, and it is a very, very clearly, simply written book, and I think again, you need that to get through to a great number of people. So I think that's a great skill, and not to be concerned that it might not be considered as the greatest literary work on earth. It's not meant for that. It's meant to be an instruction manual, which has got to be clear, right?
It's meant to work. There's another reason I wrote it the way it did. So I struggled a long, long time. Even the story came out when I was 39. I'm 59 now. It was about 8 years ago I was introduced to this idea and information that I could actually control my mind and my thinking, which directs my brain and my nervous system, how I feel. So I took possession of my own mind and started to understand how that related to how I was thinking, feeling, talking, and acting. And my mentor that helped me with this, he said, Doug, it's so simple. You're making this so complicated. He goes, just let it all go. I go, it's not that simple. You can't just let it go. I said, you don't understand what I've been through. And he goes, okay. I said, you haven't been through what I've been through. Well, you've had a rough life growing up too, but not like, not like me. I'm different. He goes, okay, whatever you say. And I dragged it out. I made it very complicated. I thought it was hard. I made it hard. And I took way too long because I was locked in to society and mental health and what everybody says we need to do. And I discovered that the way we do things clearly does not work.
Yeah.
Our mental health is only getting worse for people. And so it took me 8 years to figure out how simple this could be, that I was making it hard, and it didn't have to take as long as it did. And when I got that, it was almost like it felt like my friend that, said, this is the best month of my life. it can happen that fast. But you have to be open to the idea that
Yes.
it is simple. And he said to me, it's so simple, it's so misunderstood. And we are confused. We choose to confuse ourselves by buying all these books, going to all this therapy, listening to stuff online as to what our problem is when it really is simple. So I wanted to prove it was simple, make it simple, get you to take simple action so you could see that it really is simple and easy and it can happen fast. And it can if you let it. Let the book work on you. That's what I say.
Yeah, brilliant. Just allow things to work for you. And yeah, the Disney song comes into mind yet again, Let It Go, from Frozen.
Yeah.
I won't get that out of my head now through the rest of the day, but it is as simple as that. And I do like the way that you've made it very easy for people to follow. Now, not everybody necessarily will get the same results from all of the parts of the book that you outline, right? But I'm guessing that if people go through the book, that they will get benefit. And also, I noticed that you say that I haven't checked it out, but you've got a connection as well on the website, so people can go follow with you on the website. Is that right? On your website?
Yeah, it's in the book. If you want to go through the book with me, then you can follow along. So basically, what I do is I go with you over the 30 days, explaining each chapter briefly in a little video, and just give you a bit more instruction on the instructions in the book. And so you can read it on your own and do the exercise on your own, or you can go through the book with me, and I'll guide you along. And I do live calls as well to answer questions, and I just want to help people get this sooner rather than longer. So that's the idea.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And I think it's great because for a lot of people, having that actual person to connect with, even if you're not on a live call or whatever, having an actual person to hear, watch, and connect with is really important. So rather than just reading a bunch of stuff, you've got somebody. So it's different ways of taking in information, I guess, is what I'm saying, which is a fantastic thing to do.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things we do, because of the pressure of conformity and judgment and worrying what people think, we tend to go it alone. I was a real lone wolf, and I don't think that's an effective way to really let go fast. And I found, like, when I went public with a story, or I'm very open, whenever I speak publicly or one-on-one with people, I just open up. I'm wide open. I just tell the truth. I have nothing to hide. I see my story as a gift, as I said. And they started to tell their stories. And so there's healing in community with other like-minded people that you can relate with. So you can do it by yourself, but that's the long way. Get around other people that have a heart to really want you to see what they see in you, that you feel but you don't yet believe. And so we've created a community as well where people can just be around others and accelerate the growth. Don't do it by yourself. You can, but it takes too long.
Yes, it does take a long time if you're doing it by yourself. And I recognize what you're saying about being a lone wolf and, just going your own way. It is a lot harder. It is a lot harder. Asking
Especially
for
if
help.
You're going the wrong way.
Yeah, especially if you're going the wrong way. Asking for help is not a bad thing. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we've talked about, your upbringing, which was difficult to say the least, and about how you came to write the book and why you called it Mistaken Identity, and and how that's been set out and everything. Where are you now? Have you healed completely, do you think, all the trauma from your earlier life?
I don't really use the word healing or healed anymore. I mean, if I've got a scar on my hand. I had surgery. I had to have something cut out, and it's healed. There's a little bit of a scar tissue there, but it's healed. Our bodies heal, our hearts heal, our minds heal. So where I'm at now is really I'm at a place where I'm probably the calmest I've ever been. I'm probably the happiest I've ever been. I realized that actually happiness is not something you get. Happiness is something that you do. Happiness is a habit. I'm the farthest I've ever been away from worrying what people think of me, judgment, fear, criticism. I mean, I could have wrote this book 6, 7, 8 years ago when I first got the idea, but my own mistaken identity held me back, from writing the book. And so I just kept, distancing myself from what other people thought of me, distancing my viewpoint that was this victim mentality. And so I would just say that I don't have any negative, thoughts or feelings or physical repercussions of what I've been through. I mean, I feel good most of the time, but life throws all kinds of problems at
Yeah,
you.
of course.
And you solve one problem and then there's another problem. So I don't mind if I'm depressed one day or I'm sad. I mean, they're just emotions. They come and they go. They're like clowns. I live one day at a time, really trying to live in the moment. I don't worry a lot about my future anymore. I definitely don't look at the past anymore. And I learned that that's proper use of mindset. That's proper way of thinking. You're not supposed to worry about your future or look at the past, but we were taught to do that. And so as I broke down and dropped these habits, habitual ways of thinking and feeling, life just got lighter and life just got easier. And now I'm on a mission to really, get people to get this in a really, really big way, because too many people are struggling. It's plain wrong. And I just want people to feel better about themselves so they can do better in their life and do better in the world. And so I'm in a really wonderful place. It's just getting better. And I just, live one day at a time, because I might not be here tomorrow.
A great way to be, and I can resonate with the concept of my mistaken identity holding me back at times, and the idea of feeling that I had to sort it all out on my own. Time for a short break now, but we'll be back with more from Doug Dane and take a look at where he finds himself now after this from our sponsors.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
And you're listening to Alchemy 101 on UK Health Radio, the world's #1 talk health radio, with me, JJ, the Practical Alchemist. Back to Doug Dane now, and after reading the book and hearing his story, I was curious to hear, in his own words, what life is like for him now.
Everything's better. My business is better. Again, writing this book and putting it out there, a really good book. And my results are better than they've ever been before. Somebody said the other day they saw me on a live Zoom class, and she said, "You're different. Do you mind if I ask you a personal question? You're different than when I saw you a couple of years ago." She goes, "What is?" And I said, "It's love." And she goes, "Oh." I said, "Yeah. What I realized is that if I love myself and I love my life, you'll meet the love of your life." And so, I've got great relationships with people. I'm very honest. I have integrity. I tell the truth. Everything is better, and it just gets better and better. And there's nothing better than being yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing better than being yourself. And when you're yourself, things in your life just get better. And so I just keep practicing being myself, and it's just going to get better. I'm interested to see what this next year brings and what this book brings. It's going to make a big difference.
I'm sure, and make a big difference in other people's lives. And being yourself, of course, the whole point of the book is to get people to find out who that is, because so many people don't know who or what that is.
Yeah. No wonder people are confused and don't feel good about themselves, because they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
And they also think it's complicated to find out who they are, which is not.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's absolutely true. And then all of those anxieties and everything else that comes from not quite being yourself, they manifest physically. I noticed you said that, physically you have no manifestations of anything. You're healthy and, don't have any issues with your health that could be put down to stress or emotional turmoil or anything like that, because you are, I guess, would you say that you are just so much happier in your skin?
Yeah, it's funny because I had a really problem with rosacea on my face, and my mentor, he said, Doug, he said, you worry too much about what people think. I go, no, I don't. He goes, you got to stop concerning with what people are thinking about you. He said, they're getting under your skin. And he pointed at my face. He said, literally.
Mm.
And I go, bugger, he's right. I am letting people get under my skin. And so, as I mentioned earlier, I just started distancing myself, each day, one day at a time, just getting farther away from concerning myself with what people thought of me, because they don't. And
Right.
as
Yeah.
I did that, my skin cleared really quickly.
Yeah.
And love played a part in that too. Loving myself first
Yeah. So talk
played a
to
really
me.
big part of that.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit more about the love piece. I know there's a chapter in the book on love, but it's quite a big subject, some might think.
I don't think it's that big.
I knew you were going to say that. That's why I said some might think.
I think we make everything too big of a deal. Listen, love is natural, right? We're afraid to love because we're afraid of getting hurt. I mean, listen, nature operates very simply. One of the laws is the law of polarity, negative or positive. Love is the positive side of it. We weren't taught to love. We love. We came here. We arrived with love, and we are love. And so we just have a distorted viewpoint on what love actually is. Love is actually something that it's not just an emotion, it's something you do. So what I started to do is I just started to love people. I stopped thinking about myself. I stopped being self-centered. I stopped thinking about myself, worrying about myself, wondering what people thought of myself. I just turned outwards and I just said, I'm going to stop judging people because I was very judgmental towards myself and others. I'm going to stop judging people. And I'm just going to put out love. I'm just going to look for good in people and let them see it by them hearing it from me. And so I just started putting out good or call it love. And then I call it the boomerang effect. Very quickly, I got it back. And it's really that simple. But we just, this whole love yourself thing, and it's not complicated, but we make everything so complicated because of our experiences, our education, what people have told us, not necessarily facts, opinions. And we just think this is all such a complicated mess. But the truth is, you know how to love, And so just love and just love others. And very easily, you'll start realizing, geez, I kind of love myself, actually.
People need to be told that, though, don't they? Because if you've been told the opposite all your life, you need somebody to say, just, it's all about love. Just love yourself. Start loving yourself. Now, a lot of people will say, I don't know how to do that. But
yes,
like you said, exactly. Yeah. Yes, you do. Yeah. And it's not that hard. It's just that we keep putting these barriers up, following on from or as a result of all these things, all this conditioning that we've had over the years. And we think that we can't. Yeah.
Well, listen, I more so than ever before, and certainly I was guilty of it too, in that I carried around a victim mentality for a long time. It was very convenient to be a victim. I was a victim when I was a child, but I'm an adult now, and this victim mentality seems to be more and more perpetuated, in today's society.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's convenient to be a victim, and it's convenient. I used I had all kinds of great excuses and alibis and evidence to explain, why I was struggling in my life. But ultimately, the only person that can change my struggles is me. Nobody else can. And it starts by changing my mind. And I realized most of the things that I believed obviously from where I came from, it was distorted. It wasn't true. It didn't even make any sense. So I just started going, if all my the results of how I feel and all of my results are because of my beliefs, I probably should take a look at what I believe. Like I said, I believe this was hard. I believe this was complicated. I believe that I would never be able to figure it out. Well, that's what happened. And so I just go, what do I need to believe in order to make this simple? And the first step is you have to accept the idea that it could be simple. I thought, well, that's a better alternative. I think I'll take the road less traveled. It's actually easier. The road less traveled is easier, but we want to make it hard because we're confused too. Like if you're on these phones, you're on the internet or social media, you're watching news, you're choosing to be confused. There's a lot of confusion out there. And when you're looking all over the place, trying to find the answer as to what's wrong with you, first off, there isn't anything wrong with you. The only thing that's wrong with you is what you believe. That's it.
Yeah.
We got to get that straight.
Yeah, fundamentally, there is nothing wrong with any of us. It's just manifestations of belief and, different influences. But we ourselves, there's nothing wrong with us. Not the real us, the real being that's underneath all this stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think it's great that somebody, and especially your story, that you had such a difficult upbringing, such a difficult childhood. You could easily have fallen into this victim mentality and stayed there your entire life. But what I'm hearing from you is it just got too hard to do that, actually. It just became too hard to be there. And something had to give.
That's exactly it. I go, my way's not working. I don't like the way things are. And I guess I was intelligent enough from maybe business. I thought, and it was Einstein's quote, this definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I thought, all right, my way's not working. There's got to be a better way. And there is.
Yeah.
There is.
And I think it's great that you're now this example of somebody who has come out the other end, come out the other side and said, look, it's really quite simple. You just have to make that decision and change your belief. And there's nothing wrong with you. You're not a victim. You are who you are, and you can move through all of this. And now you're helping other people. And it's a trope that I see a lot on this show. People who've gone through a lot of stuff now helping other people do the same thing. And I think it's brilliant. I think it's fantastic. That's a great thing to do. And if we can do it, it's what we should be doing. So if anybody wants to work with you, now you've got the book, so people can buy the book, and that's available everywhere, presumably, online. And can they get it from your website?
Yeah, they can go, if you want to go through my website to do it at dougdane.com, you can go through there. And we always give bonuses away if people come through there. But ultimately, you're still going to buy it through your own store. We just come through my website. Of course, online or at your store. If you want to just find me, Doug Dane, online on social, you'll find me there as well. You can follow me there.
Fantastic.
DougDane.com is the best place.
Okay, great. And then can people work with you one-on-one? Do you do that, or do you just stick to the groups and online stuff?
Yeah, no, I've got a few different levels. I wanted to create an environment, a group setting where, people could come and just talk to me. And so I do a lot of what I call hot seat, group coaching, where you and I are working together one-on-one in front of everybody else. So I do a lot of that. I do semi-private. I do private mentoring for people as well. I don't have a lot of time to do that, of course, because it takes time. But I do also work with people one-on-one. I think the starting point is, enter in and, get to know me, and I get to know you a little bit. And then, if it's something that you wanted to work with me more closely, I'm focusing my time on most of the private stuff is with leaders, because if I can get to a leader who leads a lot of people, I can affect change a lot faster across the world. But hey, you never know. You might be one person, I work with you, and you influence millions of people. So I'm always looking for those people that want to walk the talk and be an intelligent follower to become a great leader and help other people lead their way out of their mistaken identity. So.
Well, nice. I like that very much. Yeah. I think we don't have time these days to mess around, let's just say. And we need to get the message out, our message out to as many people as possible. So I think it's great that you're doing this, and it's great that you've written this book and that you can potentially help an awful lot of people come back to themselves and have and have successful lives in the true sense of the word, successful lives, where they can feel happy, they can feel love and love themselves, love others, love themselves and love others. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, Doug, thank you so much. Inspirational, really.
Thank you.
It's great to know that you've come through all of this and that you're doing such great work right now. And on that note, sadly, we're coming to the end of the show. Remember, you can listen to UK Health Radio on all the main podcast platforms now. It can be as easy as just asking Siri or Alexa to play UK Health Radio. That's if you have either of those. Now, if you like our shows or if they've helped you, please help us spread the word by liking and sharing them. You never know, it might just be what somebody you know needs to hear. Also, do check out the show I co-host with psychiatrist and coach Dr. Mark Goulston here on UK Health Radio. It's called Hurt Less, Live More, and it's the place for raw, open, uplifting and hopefully enlightening conversations with fantastic guests. For even more health information, there's our sister publication, Health Triangle Magazine. That's a monthly magazine that's full of great features complementing our radio shows. You can subscribe online at ukhealthradio.com. And of course, you can find me online at jjsalchemy.com or on Facebook and Instagram as The Practical Alchemist. Let me know there if you have any queries, comments or suggestions. I'd love to hear from you. So that wraps it up for today. I hope that you'll join me again soon here on UK Health Radio. But for now, it's goodbye from me and that nightingale.